Black woman surrounded by gang, but her canine dogs give a surprising response. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation of imminent danger and your only allies were your faithful canine companions? On a dark Sunday night, February 9th, 2025, in a tough neighborhood of Chicago, Jasmine Carter, a 35-year-old dog trainer, was walking with her two imposing German shepherds, Zeus and Athena. The air was charged with tension, and distant barks echoed through the poorly lit streets. If you like this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to never miss an update. Comment which city you're watching this thrilling story from. As Jasmine turned a corner, her heart raced when she found herself face to face with 5 hooded men blocking her path. Her hands trembled as she held Zeus and Athena's leashes, who were immediately on alert. The men's eyes gleamed with malice, and the glint of a knife reflected the dim light from the street lamps. Well, what do we have here?" said the leader of the group, stepping forward. "A lone woman with her little dogs. Too bad they can't protect you from us." Jasmine felt fear growing in her chest, but something in her refused to give in. She knew Zeus and Athena were more than just pets. They were trained dogs, loyal partners who had undergone rigorous protection training. The men began to slowly approach, encircling Jasmine and her dogs. The air became heavy with growing tension. Zeus and Athena, though silent, had their muscles tensed, ready to act at the slightest sign from their master. "You have no idea what you're about to face," Jasmine said with surprising calm, her voice firm despite the imminent danger. The group's leader laughed, underestimating the threat. "And what do you think you can do against us, sweetheart?" At that moment, something changed in the air. Jasmine's expression hardened, and she positioned herself in a way that the thugs didn't recognize, but Zeus and Athena knew very well. What was about to happen next would forever change the lives of everyone present on that dark street. Would Jasmine's training and her dog's loyalty be enough to face an armed and dangerous gang? As the tension reached its peak, Jasmine's mind raced through her options. She knew that her next move could mean the difference between life and death, not just for her but for Zeus and Athena as well. The gang members, sensing her resolve, hesitated for a moment. This brief pause was all Jasmine needed. With a subtle hand signal, Zeus and Athena moved into a defensive formation, their training kicking in instantaneously. "Last chance," Jasmine warned, her voice steady. "Walk away now, or things will get ugly." The leader scoffed, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He had expected an easy target, not this composed woman with 2 clearly well-trained dogs. In that moment of hesitation, Jasmine made her move. With a sharp whistle, Zeus and Athena sprang into action. The dogs moved with incredible precision, not attacking but creating a barrier between Jasmine and the gang. The sudden movement caught the men off guard. 2 of them stumbled backward, clearly intimidated by the dogs' coordinated response. "What the hell?" one of the gang members exclaimed. "These ain't normal dogs." Jasmine stood her ground, her confidence growing. "No, they're not, and I'm not your typical target either. Now, what's it going to be?" The standoff had reached its critical point. The next few seconds would determine the outcome of this dangerous encounter. Would Jasmine's bold strategy pay off, or had she just escalated an already perilous situation? The South Side neighborhood of Chicago, where Jasmine lived, was known for its complex social landscape. Narrow streets wound between modest homes and old apartment buildings, creating an urban maze that harbored both dreams and dangers. It was a place where the daily struggle for a better life mingled with the constant threat of crime. Jasmine Carter was no ordinary resident. The daughter of a retired police officer and a social worker, she had grown up with a strong sense of justice and determination. From a young age, fascinated by the police dogs she saw in her father's work, she had decided to become a canine trainer. Her dark skin and curly hair were a source of pride, but also frequently the target of prejudice that she fought with firmness and education. Zeus and Athena were more than trained dogs. They were her family. Zeus, the male with his black and gold coat, had perceptive eyes that seemed to understand every command before it was even spoken. Athena, the female, with a lighter coat, possessed an almost supernatural intelligence and a fierce protective instinct. Both had undergone rigorous K9 training, learning not only obedience but also advanced protection and combat techniques. The gang surrounding Jasmine was led by Darius, known in the streets as Shadow. A dishonorably discharged veteran, he used his tactical knowledge to lead a group of criminals who terrorized the neighborhood. His accomplices, Marcus, the burglary specialist, Tyrone, the getaway driver, Jamal, the informant, and Andre, the rookie eager to prove himself, formed a feared team in the area. The tension in the air was palpable. Darius, with a scar crossing his face, looked at Jasmine with a mixture of contempt and curiosity. "Oh, you don't look scared," he observed, twirling a knife between his fingers. "You should be." Jasmine kept her cool, her eyes alternating between the group members. She knew that every movement, every word, could determine the outcome of this encounter. "I have no reason to fear men who need to hide behind masks," she replied, her voice calm but provocative. The response caught Darius off guard. He wasn't used to victims who talked back. His eyes narrowed, examining Jasmine more carefully. "You're not from around here, are you? I've never seen you in these parts." "I've lived here for years," Jasmine replied. "Maybe you're too busy terrorizing innocents to notice the real members of this community." Jasmine's words struck Darius like a slap. He stepped forward, the knife now pointed directly at her. "Watch what you say, woman. Your words might be your last." It was at this moment that Zeus and Athena sprang into action. Without a visible command from Jasmine, the two dogs positioned themselves, Zeus to her right and Athena to her left, forming a protective barrier. Their low, menacing growls resonated in the quiet street. The change in the dog's posture didn't go unnoticed. Andre, the rookie, instinctively took a step back. "Boss, these dogs, there's something strange about them," he muttered. Darius hesitated for a second, his confidence shaken for the first time. He could sense that the situation was slipping out of his control, but his pride prevented him from backing down. "They're just dogs," he said, more to himself than to the others. "They can't do anything against us." Jasmine, sensing the hesitation, saw an opportunity. "You still have a chance to leave," she offered, her voice firm. "Nobody needs to get hurt tonight." The air charged with the tension of the impending decision. On one side, a determined woman with two extraordinary dogs. On the other, an armed gang visibly shaken. The next move would define the course of the evening, and perhaps the future of the neighborhood. Jasmine's mind raced, evaluating her options. She knew that her next words could either defuse the situation or ignite a dangerous confrontation. Drawing on her years of experience in dog training and conflict resolution, she decided to appeal to Darius's sense of self-preservation. "Think about it, Darius," she said, her voice steady and authoritative. "Even if you manage to overpower us, which I doubt, the commotion will attract attention. Police response times in this neighborhood have improved. Is this really worth the risk?" Her words hung in the air, their impact visible on the faces of the gang members. Darius's grip on his knife tightened, but doubt clouded his eyes. The next few moments would be crucial, determining not just the outcome of this confrontation, but potentially the future of the entire neighborhood. The standoff lasted only a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Darius, his pride wounded and his authority questioned, made an impulsive decision. With a swift movement, he lunged towards Jasmine, the knife ready to strike. "Zeus! Athena! Protect!" Jasmine shouted, her voice echoing through the dark street. What happened next was a whirlwind of movement and sound. Zeus, with impressive speed, intercepted Darius before he could get close to Jasmine. The dog seized the aggressor's arm with his powerful jaws, causing him to drop the knife with a cry of pain. Simultaneously, Athena turned her attention to the other members of the group. With a menacing growl, she kept the men at bay, her alert eyes capturing every movement. "Back off," Jasmine ordered, her voice firm and authoritative. Zeus immediately released Darius's arm and returned to his master's side, maintaining a defensive posture. Darius stumbled backward, holding his injured arm. His eyes, once full of arrogance, now showed a mixture of pain and fear. "You crazy bitch," he yelled. "What have you done?" Jasmine kept her calm, her posture straight and confident. "I warned you that you had no idea what you were facing. These aren't just pets, they're trained K9 dogs capable of neutralizing threats much bigger than you." This revelation fell like a bombshell among the gang members. Andre, the rookie, was already backing away, visibly frightened. "Boss, let's get out of here," he pleaded. But Darius wasn't ready to accept defeat so easily. With a quick gesture, he pulled out a hidden gun from his back. "Let's see if your little dogs are bulletproof," he growled, pointing the weapon at Jasmine. Jasmine's heart raced, but she didn't show her fear. Years of training and experience had given her the mastery needed to handle extreme situations. "Think carefully about what you're about to do," she warned. Shooting will only make your situation worse. Meanwhile, the commotion was starting to attract attention from residents. Lights were turning on in neighboring houses, and distant voices could be heard discussing whether to call the police. Tyrone, the driver, noticed the change in atmosphere. "Boss, we gotta go, the neighbors are waking up." The tension in the air was palpable. Darius, the gun still pointed, seemed torn between his desire for revenge and the need to escape. His accomplices were visibly nervous, looking around for a way out. Jasmine took advantage of this moment of hesitation. "You have two options," she said, her voice calm but authoritative. "You can leave now, and I won't report you. Or you can continue, and I guarantee that not only will the police come, but so will a whole team of trained canine dogs." Jasmine's words had an immediate effect. Jamal, the informant, was the first to crack. "I'm out of here," he exclaimed, turning to run. Jamal's desertion was like a trigger. One by one, the other gang members began to back away, leaving Darius alone with his gun still pointed. "This isn't over," Darius growled, his eyes burning with hatred. Slowly he began to back away, keeping the gun aimed at Jasmine and the dogs. Jasmine maintained her position, Zeus and Athena alert at her sides. "Yes, it is over, Darius. This neighborhood is no longer your playground. From today, things are going to change around here." With one last look of contempt, Darius finally turned and ran, disappearing into the shadows of the narrow streets. As soon as the immediate danger had passed, Jasmine felt her legs tremble. She knelt down, hugging Zeus and Athena. "You were amazing," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion and relief. Meanwhile, residents were beginning to come out of their homes, curious and cautious. An old lady was the first to approach. "Child, what happened here? Are you all right?" Jasmine stood up, a tired smile on her face. "I'm fine, Mrs. Johnson. I think we just took the first step in making our neighborhood safer." People gathered around Jasmine, Zeus, and Athena, a mixture of admiration and gratitude in their eyes. That night, a new hope was born in the neighborhood. But Jasmine knew that the battle was far from over. Darius and his gang were still out there, and she was sure they wouldn't give up easily. As the adrenaline began to subside, Jasmine realized the full implications of what had just occurred. She had not only stood up to a dangerous gang, but had also inadvertently positioned herself as a community leader. The faces of her neighbors, filled with hope and expectation, made her understand that her responsibility now extended far beyond her work as a dog trainer. "We need to talk," she said to the gathering crowd. "All of us. This isn't just about one incident. It's about taking back our neighborhood." As dawn broke over the Chicago skyline, Jasmine, with Zeus and Athena by her side, began to formulate a plan. She knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The confrontation with Darius was only the first step in a long journey towards transforming their community. In the days following the confrontation, the neighborhood experienced a palpable change. News of the incident with Jasmine and her dogs spread quickly, creating a wave of hope among the residents. However, this change brought with it new complexities and challenges. A week after the incident, Jasmine was invited to a meeting of the Residents Association. The community hall was packed, with anxious faces full of expectations. Among them, Jasmine recognized Mrs. Thompson, a respected community leader, and Michael, a young activist who had long been fighting against violence in the neighborhood. "Jasmine, we want you to lead a community watch program," Mrs. Thompson proposed, her voice filled with hope. "Your dogs and your training could be the key to changing the reality of our neighborhood." The proposal took Jasmine by surprise. She hesitated, aware of the responsibility such a role would entail. "I don't know if I'm ready for that," she admitted. "Training dogs is one thing, leading a community is something completely different," Michael intervened, his tone passionate. "But you're already leading, Jasmine. What you did that night has inspired all of us. We need someone like you to show us we can fight back." As Jasmine pondered the proposal, a new complication arose. Andre, the youngest member of Darius's gang, appeared at the door of the hall, looking nervous and uncomfortable. I want to help," he stammered, to the great shock of everyone present. "I can't be part of that life anymore. I want to change." Andre's revelation divided the community. Some, like Michael, saw him as an opportunity for redemption and a valuable source of information on gang operations. Others, more skeptical, feared it might be a trap set by Darius. Jasmine found herself at the center of this dilemma. Her experience in rehabilitating problem dogs inclined her to give Andre a chance. but she couldn't ignore the risks involved. Meanwhile, an unexpected subplot was developing. Sarah, a young law student and neighborhood resident, approached Jasmine after the meeting. "I want to help legally," she proposed. "We could create a legal assistance program for victims of violence in the neighborhood. It could be just as powerful as physical protection." Sarah's idea opened up a new front in the fight against crime in the neighborhood. Jasmine realized that the battle wouldn't be won by force alone, but also through education and legal support. However, not all the news was good. Rumors began to circulate that Darius was recruiting new members in neighboring areas, preparing for retaliation. The tension in the air was palpable, and Jasmine knew that time was working against them. Amidst these complexities, Jasmine faced her own inner demons. The weight of responsibility, the fear of disappointing the community that now placed its hopes in her, and the constant threat of retaliation from Darius kept her awake at night. One evening, as she was walking with Zeus and Athena, Jasmine met Mr. Rodriguez, an old man who always greeted her with a warm smile. "My dear," he said, his voice gentle, "I see the worry in your eyes. Remember, you're not alone in this fight. Each of us has a role to play." Mr. Rodriguez's words touched Jasmine deeply. She realized that the true strength lay not just in her or her dogs, but in the unity of the community. With this realization, Jasmine began to formulate a plan. It wouldn't just be a watch program, but a comprehensive community initiative. Dog training, legal assistance, education, and rehabilitation. All these elements would work together to transform the neighborhood. But time was pressing. Darius wouldn't stay silent for long, and the community needed to be ready. Jasmine knew that the decisions she would make in the coming days would shape not only her future, but that of the entire neighborhood. As she looked out over the streets she had called home for so long, Jasmine felt a mix of determination and apprehension. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the change had begun, and there was no turning back. The sun had barely risen when Jasmine was awakened by frantic knocking at her door. Opening it, she found herself face to face with Michael, panting and with a look of panic on his face. "Jasmine, it's Andre. He's been attacked." "He's in the hospital," Michael said between labored breaths. Jasmine's heart raced. She knew that the decision to trust Andre was risky, but she didn't expect the consequences to come so quickly. "What happened?" she asked, already grabbing her keys and calling for Zeus and Athena. "Looks like Darius found out he was helping us. It was a message, Jasmine. They left a note. For you." At the hospital, the scene was grim. Andre was unconscious, covered in bruises and cuts. Next to his bed was an envelope addressed to Jasmine. With trembling hands, she opened it. Inside was a photo of her house and a short message. "You chose the wrong side. Now, it's personal." The explicit threat sent a shiver down Jasmine's spine. She looked at Zeus and Athena, who remained vigilant by her side, then at Michael and Sarah, who had arrived shortly after. "This changes everything," Jasmine said, her voice firm despite the fear she felt. "We can't wait anymore. We need to act now." At that moment something changed in Jasmine. The hesitation that had held her back before gave way to fierce determination. She knew she was no longer fighting just for the neighborhood, but for her own life and for all those who had trusted her. "Michael, gather all the volunteers you can. Sarah, we need to accelerate the legal assistance program. And me, I'm going to do something I swore I'd never do." Jasmine took out her phone and made a call she had been avoiding for years. "Dad, I need your help. It's time to use your contacts in the police force." The decision to involve her father, a former police officer with whom she had a complicated relationship, wasn't easy, but Jasmine knew they needed all the help they could get. In the hours that followed, the neighborhood transformed into a hive of activity. Volunteers gathered, strategies were developed, and a bold plan began to take shape. Jasmine, with her father's help, managed to organize a joint operation between the community and the police. But the surprise element would come from an unexpected source. Mrs. Thompson, the community leader, revealed an asset no one expected. "My grandson is a hacker," she said, with a mixture of pride and concern. "He can help us trace Darius's communications." With this new piece on the chessboard, the plan took on a technological dimension. While Mrs. Thompson's grandson worked behind the scenes, Jasmine and her father coordinated the strategy on the ground. Night fell on the neighborhood, bringing with it a palpable tension. Jasmine, Zeus, and Athena led a group of trained volunteers, each equipped with radios and specific instructions. That's when the turning point came in an explosive manner. Mrs. Thompson's grandson managed to intercept a message. Darius and his gang were planning a large-scale attack on the neighborhood that very night. "It's now or never," Jasmine said to her father, who nodded gravely. With military precision, the operation unfolded. Jasmine and her dogs led the community front, while the police, guided by information from Jasmine's father, surrounded strategic points. The confrontation was intense. Darius and his gang, taken by surprise by the organized response, quickly found themselves cornered. Zeus and Athena once again proved their worth, neutralizing threats with impressive efficiency. At the height of the battle, Jasmine found herself face to face with Darius. The gang leader, cornered and desperate, pointed a gun directly at her. "It's over, Darius," Jasmine said, her voice firm despite the danger. "You can shoot me, but you can't kill what we've started here. This neighborhood isn't yours anymore." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Darius, finger on the trigger, looked around and saw his gang subdued, residents united against him, and the police approaching. With a cry of frustration, he lowered his weapon. "You've won," he muttered as handcuffs were placed on his wrists. As the dust settled and the police began arresting the gang members, Jasmine found herself at the center of a sea of smiling and grateful faces. Zeus and Athena, still by her side, seemed to share the feeling of victory. That night, the neighborhood hadn't just repelled a physical threat, but had also secured its independence and identity. The message was clear. This community had found its strength and nothing could shake its unity. As dawn broke, Jasmine stood on her porch, Zeus and Athena at her feet. She looked out at the neighborhood, forever changed by the night's events. A mix of exhaustion and exhilaration coursed through her veins. She knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter for her community, but for the first time in years, she felt hope for the future. In the weeks following the decisive confrontation, Jasmine's neighborhood underwent a profound and lasting transformation. News of the community's victory against the gang and its resistance to external political interference spread quickly, inspiring communities throughout Chicago and beyond. Jasmine, now recognized not only as a dog trainer, but as a visionary community leader, was invited to share the neighborhood's story at conferences and on television shows. She used these platforms not to promote herself, but to highlight the power of collective action and community resilience. "What we've accomplished isn't about one person or one program," she often said. "It's about a community that decided to come together and take control of its own destiny." The Pause for Progress program, as Jasmine had named her initiative, flourished, expanding to include not only dog training, but also mentoring programs, civic education, and social entrepreneurship. Young people who were previously on the fringes of society were now leading change initiatives in their own communities. Zeus and Athena, Jasmine's faithful companions, became living symbols of the neighborhood's transformation. Their stories of loyalty and courage inspired a new generation of animal lovers and community advocates. The impact extended beyond the neighborhood's borders. Politicians and community leaders from across the city began rethinking their approaches to urban security and development, recognizing the value of community autonomy and empowerment. Jasmine, reflecting on the journey, realized that the true victory lay not just in defeating the gang or resisting political co-optation. It lay in the fundamental change in people's mindset. The fear and resignation that once dominated had given way to hope and proactive action. However, not everything was rosy. The sudden notoriety brought unexpected challenges to Jasmine. Some residents, fearing retaliation from other gangs, wondered if the media exposure would once again put the neighborhood in danger. Others feared that success would attract the attention of opportunistic politicians. "We need to be careful not to lose control of what we've built," Mrs. Thompson warned at a community meeting. "Our strength lies in unity, not in celebrity." Jasmine agreed, aware that the balance was delicate. She began working on a plan to ensure that power remained in the hands of the community, avoiding excessive external interference. Meanwhile, Zeus and Athena became local canine celebrities. Children in the neighborhood followed them down the streets, asking to photograph and pet them. Jasmine saw this as an opportunity to educate about responsible animal care and the importance of proper training. An unexpected consequence was the increased interest in dog training. Jasmine found herself flooded with requests to give classes, which led her to consider opening a training school in the neighborhood, offering a new career option for local youth. Jasmine's relationship with her father also underwent a transformation. Their joint work during the operation against Darius paved the way for a gradual reconciliation. "You reminded me why I became a cop in the first place," he told her, pride in his eyes. However, not all reactions were positive. Rumors began to circulate about gangs from neighboring areas planning retaliation or seeking to fill the void left by Darius. Jasmine knew that the battle for the community's safety and dignity was far from over. One evening, as she walked with Zeus and Athena, Jasmine stopped to observe the neighborhood. The streets were cleaner, people walked with more confidence, and there was a palpable sense of hope in the air. But she also noticed furtive glances, worried whispers. "The work is never done, is it?" she murmured to her faithful canine companions. Zeus and Athena looked at her as if they understood the weight of her words. Jasmine took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the strength of the community that now supported her. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The neighborhood would never be the same again, and she was ready to face the new challenges ahead. As she continued her walk, Jasmine's mind was already racing with new ideas. She knew that maintaining this positive change would require constant effort and innovation. But looking at the transformed streets around her, at the children playing freely, at the neighbors chatting on their porches without fear, she knew it was all worth it. Tomorrow, she thought, we start planning for the next chapter. The months that followed brought new challenges and opportunities for growth, not only for Jasmine, but for the entire community. The neighborhood, once known only for its violence, was now considered a model of social transformation. However, with recognition came ever-increasing expectations and unexpected pressures. Jasmine, determined to maintain the positive momentum, faced her biggest challenge yet, expanding the dog training program to include at-risk youth. She knew this initiative could be a powerful tool to prevent gang recruitment of young people. "This isn't just about training dogs," Jasmine explained at a meeting with community leaders. "It's about responsibility, discipline, and emotional connection, things that many of these young people have never experienced." The program, dubbed Pause for Progress, met with initial resistance. Some parents feared their children would be in danger handling large dogs. Others questioned the effectiveness of such an approach. Determined to prove the program's value, Jasmine decided to work on a particularly difficult case. Marcus, a 16-year-old with a history of legal troubles and known for his hostile attitude. During the first few weeks, Marcus tested all of Jasmine's limits. He arrived late, provoked other participants, and refused to follow instructions. But Jasmine, remembering how difficult Zeus had been to train initially, remained patient and firm. The turning point came when Jasmine entrusted Marcus with a rescue dog named Rex, a Belgian Malinois with a history of abuse. The connection between the two was instant and transformative. "It's like they understand each other," Sarah commented, watching Marcus work gently with Rex. Seeing Marcus's progress, other young people began to take an interest in the program. Within a few months, Pause for Progress had a waiting list, and the results were undeniable. Participants showed improvements not only in their behavior, but also in their academic results and family relationships. Meanwhile, Jasmine was facing her own personal growth. The public exposure and growing responsibilities forced her to develop leadership and communication skills she never imagined possessing. "You're not just a dog trainer anymore," her father told her one day. "You've become a community leader. It's time to embrace that role." Recognizing the wisdom in her father's words, Jasmine decided to enroll in a social project management course. Balancing her studies with her responsibilities in the neighborhood was challenging, but she found strength in the example she was setting for the young people in the program. The community too was growing and transforming. The success of Pause for Progress inspired other initiatives. Mrs. Thompson led a community gardens project, while Michael established a mentoring program for local entrepreneurs. However, not all victories were easy. An incident involving one of the program's dogs, which accidentally frightened a child in the park, threatened to destabilize all the progress. Jasmine found herself having to navigate a public relations crisis, defending the program while acknowledging the need to improve safety. "Growth means learning from our mistakes," Jasmine declared at a community assembly called to discuss the incident. "Let's use this as an opportunity to make our program even stronger and safer." Her honesty and willingness to take responsibility impressed even the most vocal critics. The incident, which could have been a major setback, ended up strengthening the community's confidence in her leadership. Over the months, Jasmine saw the fruits of her work and personal growth manifest in unexpected ways. Marcus, the troubled teenager who had become one of Pause for Progress's biggest success stories, was now helping her train new participants. Zeus and Athena, always by her side, seemed to grow in their ability to connect with people and other dogs. One evening, while walking through the neighborhood with Zeus and Athena, Jasmine stopped to observe a scene that would have been unthinkable a year ago. Children playing freely in the streets, neighbors chatting on balconies, and a general sense of peace and community in the air. "We did it," she whispered to her faithful companions, feeling a mixture of pride and humility. "But we still have a lot to do." At that moment, Jasmine understood that her journey of growth and that of the neighborhood were intrinsically linked. Each challenge overcome, each lesson learned, not only strengthened her, but elevated the entire community. As she continued her walk, Jasmine's mind was already racing with new ideas. The success of Pause for Progress had opened doors she never imagined. There was talk of expanding the program to other neighborhoods, even other cities. Universities were showing interest in studying the impact of the initiative on community development. But with these opportunities came new challenges. How could they expand without losing the personal touch that made the program so effective? How could they maintain the community's autonomy while working with larger institutions? Jasmine knew that the next phase of their journey would require even more innovation, adaptability, and teamwork. But looking at the transformed streets around her, at the hope shining in people's eyes, she felt ready for whatever came next. With a determined smile, Jasmine continued her walk, Zeus and Athena trotting faithfully beside her. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would face it together as a community. The success of the neighborhood hadn't gone unnoticed in the rest of the city. As Jasmine and the community celebrated their achievements, external forces began to stir, some with intentions that weren't always noble. One morning, Jasmine was surprised by an unexpected visit. Richard Dawson, an ambitious city councilman, appeared at her door with a calculating smile and a tempting proposal. "Jasmine, what you've done here is extraordinary," he began, his tone praising but with an undercurrent that made her uneasy. "Imagine what we could accomplish if we extended this across the entire city. With City Hall's support, we could transform all of Chicago." The offer was attractive at first glance. Substantial funding, expansion of the Pause for Progress program, and official recognition. However, Jasmine sensed that something was off. The implications suggested a loss of autonomy for the community and possible political exploitation of her work. "I need to discuss this with the community," Jasmine responded cautiously. "Our decisions are made together." Meanwhile, another threat was forming in the shadows. Former members of Darius's gang, who had escaped the operation months earlier, were beginning to regroup. Led by Kevin, Darius's former right-hand man, they were planning not only to regain control of the neighborhood, but also to take revenge on Jasmine and all who had supported her. The tension in the air was palpable. Jasmine, sensing that something serious was about to happen, called an emergency meeting with the key neighborhood leaders. "We're facing two challenges," she explained, with Zeus and Athena vigilant at her side. "Councilman Dawson's offer may seem like an opportunity, but I fear it means losing control of what we've built, and there are rumors that the old gang is reorganizing." The room exploded into animated discussions. Some saw the councilman's proposal as a unique chance for growth. Others feared the loss of the project's community essence. The fear of a return to violence hung over everyone. Sarah, always the voice of legal reason, warned, "If we accept City Hall's support, we could become vulnerable to political changes. And as for the gang, we need to act within the law to avoid compromising everything we've accomplished." Jasmine knew that the decisions made in the coming days would shape the future not only of the neighborhood, but potentially of the entire approach to community security in the city. She found herself at the center of a storm, having to balance the hopes of the community, external threats, and her own doubts. That night, while walking Zeus and Athena, Jasmine noticed suspicious movements. Shadows moved furtively between alleys, and there was an unsettling silence in the usually lively streets. Her instinct told her that confrontation was imminent. The gang wouldn't wait much longer to act, and the political pressure from Councilman Dawson was increasing every day. Determined to anticipate the threats, Jasmine began to devise a bold plan. She knew she would need the entire community united to face what was coming. "Zeus, Athena," she whispered to her faithful companions, "I think we're about to face our biggest battle yet." In the days that followed, Jasmine worked tirelessly. She strengthened the training of volunteers in the surveillance program, coordinated with Sarah a legal action plan to protect the project's autonomy, and intensified the training of young people in Pause for Progress, knowing they would be crucial in maintaining neighborhood unity. The community was buzzing with preparations. Mrs. Thompson organized the older residents into a network of informants, while Michael coordinated a rapid communication system between blocks. The air was charged with expectation and tension. Everyone felt they were on the brink of something big, something that would define the future of the neighborhood and perhaps the entire city. Jasmine, standing on her house's balcony, looked out over the neighborhood that had become her extended family. With Zeus and Athena by her side, she took a deep breath, knowing that the next few hours would be decisive. "We're ready," she told herself, her voice mixing determination and apprehension. Come what may. As night fell, Jasmine made her final preparations. She knew that the coming confrontation would test not only her leadership, but the very soul of the community they had built together. With a mix of anxiety and resolve, she prepared to face whatever challenges the dawn might bring. Night fell on the neighborhood like a heavy cloak, charged with tension and expectation. Jasmine, Zeus, and Athena were on high alert, patrolling the silent streets with a group of trained volunteers. The plan was in motion, with each resident playing their carefully rehearsed role. Suddenly, the silence was broken by an alert coming over the radio. Suspicious movement in the east sector. Several armed men spotted. Jasmine's heart raced. This was the moment everyone had dreaded and anticipated. "Alpha team, with me." "Beta team, take the north," she ordered, her voice firm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. As they moved through the streets, Jasmine saw shadows moving quickly, converging on the neighborhood center. Kevin, the new gang leader, had chosen to launch a direct and bold attack. At the same instant, the lights of official cars flooded the neighborhood from the west. Councilman Dawson, accompanied by police officers and assistants, arrived at a crucial moment, apparently to offer his support in the face of the imminent threat. Jasmine realized she was facing a battle on two fronts, against the explicit violence of the gang and against the veiled threat of losing the neighborhood's autonomy to political interests. The confrontation exploded in the neighborhood center. Kevin and his men, armed and thirsty for revenge, began firing indiscriminately, trying to spread chaos and fear. "Zeus, Athena, protect!" Jasmine commanded, and the two dogs sprang into action with impressive precision, taking down two assailants without causing serious injuries. The community's response was immediate and surprising. Residents emerged from all sides, not with weapons, but with impressive coordination. Improvised barricades blocked strategic streets, sowing confusion among the invaders. The young people from the Pause for Progress program led teams of trained dogs, cornering gang members in dead ends. Meanwhile, Sarah directed a group that documented every move, ensuring evidence for future legal actions and avoiding excesses on both sides. At the height of the chaos, Jasmine found herself face to face with Kevin. The cornered and furious gang leader pointed a gun directly at her. "It's over, Kevin," Jasmine said, her voice surprisingly calm. "Look around you. This neighborhood is no longer a place ruled by fear. These people united are stronger than any weapon." At this critical moment, Zeus and Athena positioned themselves at Jasmine's sides, their eyes fixed on Kevin, ready to act at the slightest sign. Kevin's hesitation was enough. In seconds, he was surrounded not only by Jasmine and her dogs, but by dozens of residents, each representing the strength and unity of the community. Realizing his defeat, Kevin lowered his weapon, despair replacing anger in his eyes. "It's over," he muttered, echoing Jasmine's words. With the gang neutralized, Jasmine turned to face her second challenge. Councilman Dawson was advancing, accompanied by cameras and journalists, clearly seeking to capitalize on the moment. "Jasmine, you see now why they need our help," Dawson proclaimed, his voice loud enough for the cameras to hear. "With City Hall's support, we can ensure this never happens again." But Jasmine was prepared. With a gesture, Mrs. Thompson and Michael approached, bringing with them carefully collected documents and evidence. "Councilman Dawson," Jasmine began, her voice firm and clear, "we appreciate your concern, But as you can see, our community is capable of protecting and thriving on its own. What you witnessed today wasn't just the defeat of a gang, but proof of the power of community unity. She paused, looking directly at the cameras. We don't need external saviors or opportunistic politicians. What we need is support to expand our community programs, respect for our autonomy, and a true partnership with the authorities. Jasmine's words resonated not only throughout the neighborhood, but through the live broadcasts, capturing the moment. The crowd of residents applauded, their faces showing pride and determination. Dawson, realizing the situation had slipped from his grasp, visibly backed down. "Well, of course. We're here to support community initiatives," he stammered, trying to save face. As the dust settled and the police began arresting the gang members, Jasmine found herself at the center of a sea of smiling and grateful faces. Zeus and Athena, still by her side, seemed to share the feeling of victory. That night, the neighborhood had not only repelled a physical threat, but had also secured its independence and identity. The message was clear. This community had found its strength, and nothing could shake its unity. As dawn broke over the Chicago skyline, Jasmine stood on her porch, Zeus and Athena at her feet. She looked out at the neighborhood, forever changed by the night's events. A mix of exhaustion and exhilaration coursed through her veins. She knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter for her community, but for the first time in years, she felt genuine hope for the future. "We did it, boys," she whispered to her canine companions. "We really did it." In the weeks following the decisive confrontation, Jasmine's neighborhood underwent a profound and lasting transformation. News of the community's victory against the gang and its resistance to external political interference spread rapidly, inspiring communities across Chicago and beyond. Jasmine, now recognized not only as a dog trainer, but as a visionary community leader, was invited to share the neighborhood's story at conferences and on television shows. She used these platforms not to promote herself, but to highlight the power of collective action and community resilience. "What we've accomplished isn't about one person or one program," she often said. "It's about a community that decided to come together and take control of its own destiny." The Pause for Progress program flourished, expanding to include not only dog training, but also mentoring programs, civic education and social entrepreneurship. Young people who were previously on the fringes of society were now leading change initiatives in their own communities. Zeus and Athena, Jasmine's faithful companions, became living symbols of the neighborhood's transformation. Their stories of loyalty and courage inspired a new generation of animal lovers and community advocates. The impact extended beyond the neighborhood's borders. Politicians and community leaders from across the city began rethinking their approaches to urban security and development, recognizing the value of community autonomy and empowerment. Jasmine, reflecting on the journey, realized that the true victory lay not just in defeating the gang or resisting political co-optation. It lay in the fundamental change in people's mindset. The fear and resignation that once dominated had given way to hope and proactive action. 5 years had passed since the neighborhood's transformation. Jasmine, now a respected figure nationwide in community development, proudly observed the lasting changes. The Pause for Progress model had been adopted in dozens of communities across the United States. Zeus and Athena, though older, remained beloved neighborhood symbols, often seen playing with children in the local park. The Community Unity Center, as they had named their main building, had become a hub for social innovation, attracting visitors from around the world. As Jasmine walked through the bustling streets, she smiled, knowing that the true story of transformation was just beginning. "We've come so far," she murmured to Zeus and Athena, who walked faithfully by her side, "but there's still so much more we can do." The neighborhood that was once known for its crime and despair had become a beacon of hope and a model for community-driven change. And at the heart of it all stood Jasmine, her loyal dogs, and a community united in its determination to create a better future. As the sun set on another day of progress and hope, Jasmine knew that their journey was far from over. But with the strength of their community behind them, she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Dear viewer, if you've watched this far, your journey with Jasmine, Zeus, and Athena is coming to an end. But the story doesn't have to stop here. You too can be an agent of change in your community. What lesson from this story will you apply in your life? How can you make a difference where you live? If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Inspire others. Show that change is possible when we come together. Don't forget to comment "I watched till the end" and click on the video appearing on the end screen to continue your journey of inspiration. Together, we can transform our communities one step at a time. 5 years after the neighborhood's transformation, Jasmine stood on the roof of the Community Unity Center, overlooking the vibrant streets below. Zeus and Athena, now older but still alert, sat beside her. The Pause for Progress program had spread to cities across the country, changing thousands of lives. As she watched children playing freely in the park and neighbors chatting on their porches, Jasmine felt a surge of pride and hope. The journey hadn't been easy, but the results were clear. This wasn't just a safer neighborhood. It was a model for community-driven change. Jasmine smiled, knowing that their story would continue to inspire others for years to come.